Welcome back, Guardians. Zeus here. Something is changing in Hero Wars right now, and if you haven't felt it yet, you will very soon. The balance we briefly experienced is already cracking, physical teams are quietly losing ground, and a new force is starting to dictate how battles are decided, often within the first few seconds. Today I'm going to show you exactly what triggered this shift, why most players are reacting too late, and what you need to understand before the new era fully takes control of the battlefield. A month ago, I posted a video explaining how Hero Wars evolved as we approached the new year, how the battlefield shifted and how certain heroes quietly started redefining what strength looks like. And if you think what we're seeing right now is just another small balance adjustment, it isn't. What we are witnessing looks much closer to an era shift. Because when January arrived, we experienced something that rarely lasts long in this game: true balance. Physical and magic teams stood on almost equal ground. It wasn't perfect, but it forced players to think instead of blindly relying on one dominant strategy. So what created that balance? Two heroes were responsible: Electra and Cascade. And if you remember my last tier list, you probably noticed I placed enormous value on both of them, and I know that surprised some players. I saw the confusion. Many were wondering why I rated them that highly. This is exactly why. The moment they stepped onto the battlefield, the pressure was immediate. Their damage was high, their tempo relentless, and they forced the entire player base to adapt. But despite how overwhelming they looked, they were not unstoppable, because Isaac existed as the stabilizer. As long as Isaac was part of the equation, magic teams could be controlled. And physical teams still had room to operate. That is what real balance looked like. You couldn't lock yourself into one approach. One fight demanded a physical team. The next required magic. Sometimes the smartest move was a hybrid setup: physical damage protected by Isaac, just to survive the magic burst and regain control. If you truly want to understand when balance exists in Hero Wars, don't just analyze hero skills, observe pressure environments. For me, Arena and Area of Conquest are not just game modes. They are testing laboratories. The moment you take first place in Arena, or secure the middle settlement in Area of Conquest, attacks begin immediately. Strong players don't hesitate, they test you on the spot. When dozens of high-level attackers throw different combinations at your defense, patterns reveal themselves very quickly. You see what holds and what collapses. During January, those attacks showed something very clear. Balance forced flexibility. You had to jump back and forth between physical and magic teams depending on what stood in front of you. But that reality has changed. Let me be direct, the era of physical attack teams is fading in 2026, and it is not coming back anytime soon. The biggest reason is Fluffy. Fluffy doesn't just pressure physical teams, he disrupts their foundation. And that foundation has always been Sebastian. Here is where battles start getting decided within seconds. Fluffy doesn't need to survive the entire fight to create impact, he only needs the opening moments. At the very start of the battle, Fluffy counters Sebastian. That single interaction is enough to interfere with Ode to Serenity, and once Sebastian fails to cleanse those early effects, the defensive structure immediately weakens. And those first seconds are exactly what Augustus is waiting for. Augustus begins stacking superconductivity almost instantly, converting magic damage into pure damage. This is the turning point of the fight, because Isaac cannot properly charge from magic damage. Without energy gain, Isaac cannot stabilize the team, cannot slow the momentum, and cannot protect the front line the way players expect. The chain reaction begins early, and once it starts, it is extremely difficult to stop. Now this is where many players bring up Corvis. Yes, Corvis can kill Fluffy relatively early in the fight. That part is correct. But eliminating Fluffy does not undo what already happened. By the time Corvis brings him down, Sebastian has already been disrupted, Augustus has already begun converting damage, Isaac is already behind on energy, and pure damage is already cutting through the team. So what looks like a successful counter is actually too late. The mechanism is already active. Isaac cannot recover in time, the front line melts faster than expected, and the Corvis composition collapses, not because Corvis failed at his job, but because the fight was decided in the opening seconds. This is exactly why modern Magic teams don't rely on long battles anymore. They create explosive openings that generate irreversible advantage almost immediately. Previously, if you saw Isaac on defense, the decision was simple: switch to a physical team. That rule no longer applies. See Isaac. Bring Augustus. See Lara Croft. Use Helios. Fight over. Yes, there are still situations where Isaac works well, especially against teams that do not include Augustus. But here is the key shift: you no longer need a physical team to use Isaac effectively. You can place him inside a Magic lineup and gain protection without sacrificing offensive pressure. And when you compare raw output today, physical teams simply cannot match what Magic teams are producing. Because when eras shift in Hero Wars, they rarely revolve around one hero, they reshape entire team architectures. In my opinion, we are witnessing the closing chapter of the physical era, and the early rise of a Magic-dominant age. I know many players are not happy hearing this, and honestly, that reaction is understandable. Era transitions are expensive. This isn't about upgrading one hero, it often means rebuilding entire teams, redirecting resources, and committing to a completely new strategic direction. That is never comfortable for any player. Now the question naturally becomes, do we already have a defined meta? Not yet. But we are getting very close. Look at the offensive landscape right now: Electra Cascade, Krista, Orion, Augustus, Helios, and Fluffy are performing at an extremely high level. With this pool of heroes, you can realistically dismantle around 95% of team combinations you encounter. Offense has clarity. Defense, however, remains a puzzle. I've been testing defenses with high intensity, constant adjustments, different formations, layered protection, bait setups. Yes, there are defensive teams that perform well. Some can slow attackers. Others can punish unprepared players. But nothing truly stands above the rest. No unmistakable meta defense has emerged yet. And that brings us to what could become the turning point. The Electro Brawls event is right around the corner, and events like this accelerate discovery. When thousands of competitive players experiment simultaneously, the meta tends to reveal itself much faster. Personally, I expect this Brawls to be more unpredictable than usual. Whenever the game sits between two eras, creativity spikes. Players test uncomfortable combinations, hidden synergies surface, and sometimes completely unexpected teams rewrite what we thought we understood about the battlefield. So watch closely. Because the next meta might not arrive gradually. It might arrive all at once. So what should you take away from all of this? The battlefield is shifting, and it's shifting fast. The balance we experienced is already fading, physical teams are losing their grip, and Magic lineups are beginning to dictate the pace of fights. Fluffy is disrupting the opening seconds, Augustus is converting damage before Isaac can respond, and battles are being decided earlier than ever. This isn't just a small adjustment in the meta. It feels like the beginning of a new era. But remember, eras don't reward the strongest players. They reward the ones who adapt first. Now I want to hear from you. Are you already feeling this shift in your arena or area of conquest battles? Are magic teams giving you more trouble than before, or have you found a defense that actually holds? Drop your experience in the comments, because these conversations help the entire community see the direction the game is moving. And if this breakdown helped you understand what's coming next, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because when the meta moves, you don't want to realize it late. You want to be ready before everyone else. As always, the players who read the battlefield early are the ones who stay ahead. Stay sharp, stay strategic. And I'll see you in the next one.